Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I am continuing my review of the original Twilight Zone TV series. As always, you can find all episodes of my show along with links to social media, ways to listen to the show, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And please check out my episode descriptions for all my shows. There you can find links to the co-host of the show, Jen, the Arcane Observer, her own page, and as well as links to the Trouble Minds Radio Network, Michael Strange and Trouble Minds Radio, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, and there you can listen to amazing shows from amazing people all day, 24/7. And go from there. So we are on getting towards the end of season 2, reviewing season 2 of the Twilight Zone. And and then of course that means pretty soon we'll be starting on season 3. We are on episode 26 of season 2. And this one is called Shadow Play. So, this is about a man that is found guilty of murder. His name is Adam Grant, and he's been sentenced to the electric chair. And the whole time he's there, he's going through the process. He is frightened, and he insists that he did not do anything. But it's not prison that is really frightening him. It's the waiting, and also he starts insisting that he can't go through all this again, which of course is strange because usually for most people, once you are done, once you die, that's it for at least that version of the person that you are, as far as we know. And so he tries to tell everyone in the courtroom, including the district attorney, Henry Ritchie, and newspaper editor, Paul Carson, that he, as an Adam Grant, is dreaming. And if he is executed, everyone there will cease to exist. Of course, no one believes him, and he's locked up on death row in prison. And he is talking to a fellow prisoner and explains to him the feelings, the process of dying in the electric chair. Now, the amazing thing about this show is, if this is really true, if this is really a nightmare, then it gets more complicated, or Adam is aware of a lot more than what it may seem that he's aware of. And I say that because there are other scenes in this episode, other places with other people, where Grant is not there, where Adam Grant is not there. However, if you go with the idea that he is having this nightmare, then he must be aware of everything that's going on around him, you would think. So this brings up a lot of questions of what happens when you are sleeping. How much does your mind create, and how much is it aware of what it is creating? Because of course the show shifts to a different scene at that point, and it's the newspaper editor Carson that shows up at Richie's house, and Carson is drunk. He's been speaking to Grant and is afraid that Grant might be telling the truth about everything in that that is in that world, that they're all there with Grant in. And words are hard. I'm having a hard time putting this into words. He's basically afraid that Grant might be telling the truth, and everything and everyone that is existing there is just part of Grant's nightmare. So Richie's wife, Carol, who's annoyed by Carson, goes to bed early, telling her husband telling Richie, basically her husband, that there's steaks almost done cooking in the oven, and so leaves Carson and Richie to talk more, because she's just upset by this whole discussion, and she just goes to bed. And Carson argues with Richie and says that their lives seem impossibly perfect, and and tries to get Richie to think about or to doubt everything as well, and to consider the possibility that they are all part of this nightmare. So back in the prison, Grant waits for Richie to show up, and he's waiting, and he's talking to this other prisoner who has a watch to tell the time, which to Grant doesn't seem likely. But anyway, Richie comes, and they have a conversation, and because at this point Richie is confused and doesn't know what to think, and apparently I didn't notice this because it's a visual thing, but as Richie is talking with Grant knows what Richie is going to say, and even sort of doesn't say them out loud, but mouths the words that Richie says as he says them. And so Richie asks Grant why he cares about dying if it's all a dream. And Grant explains that he's doesn't want to have this nightmare every night, because every time he dies in the dream, he wakes up, and then of course the next night he goes back to sleep, and it all starts over again. So Richie is still not convinced, and he's getting ready to leave, and Grant tries to prove this all to Richie again, by predicting that the steak that is in the oven back at Richie's house will be something else when he gets there. And Richie does go home and finds instead a roast in the oven. So the prisoner, other prisoner there in the jail, who Grant says he made up based on the character in another movie, basically, suggests that Grant try to get a psychiatric exemption from execution. But Grant points out logical errors that seem normal to everyone else around them, such as the facts that the trial, sentencing, and execution are happening on the same day, and indicating that, of course, in the real world, all these things take more time. So back at Richie's home, he and Carson wait for midnight, which is the time that the execution is supposed to happen, and they are wondering why they're doing the execution at midnight. And of course, Grant had told them before that this was because that's what happened in the movies. So as Grant is waiting to be taken to the electric chair, a priest, visits him, and Grant has a vague memory of this man as being based on a real priest who had passed away when he was a boy. So, and he realizes that Carson, the newspaper editor, is actually the young priest who replaced the current one, Beeman, but still struggles to place Richie. So the idea is that everyone in this nightmare is based on someone that Grant either knew in real life or saw in some kind of movie or TV show. And meanwhile, back at Richie's house, Carson finally convinces Richie that either Grant is right or that Carson is. I'm not actually sure who they mean here. Either Grant is right or basically insane. So that Grant is insane. So he convinces Richie to call the governor for a stay of execution. But the call comes too late, and Grant is executed, and the world fades away. And comes back to reveal Grant back in the courtroom. And he's going through the whole court procedure again. And everyone in the courtroom is physically the same, but their names and their roles, their positions, have changed. And so it's really a wild show in a way. And again, I it's done really well, and the acting and everything is really done well. It does bring up a lot of questions about how dreams work and why they work, and why is this man having this nightmare every day. Kind of makes me wonder if, and this is not, I don't think it's really described in the show at all, but just by some kind of logic, possibly, and if you want to go deeper into the story than the show was able to do, because it only has so much time, is Grant really a criminal? Did he really commit some kind of murder, and he's having these nightmares out of sort of a guilt? Or is it just something random, which is still not good because it's happening every night. So, but it was a very good episode. Definitely recommend it, and it just raises a lot of questions about how dreams work and why we have repeated dreams. And again, the fact that there's scenes in the show that take place where Grant is not with everyone, is, to me, it's a detail that I didn't think about at the time until just tonight talking about this. But it really is a wild show, so definitely recommend it. And I do, as I've said before in these shows and other shows, I do think dreams can be sleep, and dreaming can be a sort of a gateway to basically any kind of anomalous paranormal experience, just based on so many accounts of what I've heard and my own experiences over the years. I know this has been covered a lot over on Michael Strange's show, Trouble Minds Radio, and over the years. And it's a fascinating topic and series of ideas here, so, as well in this show. So that's it for that one. We move on to the next one here. And once I click on the next link. So The next one is called The Mind and the Matter. This is episode 27 of season 2. So, this is about a man named Archie, I believe. Archibald, or I think it would be Archie. Beechcroft. And he is, let's see here. He has a hard time getting to work because everything is so crowded, and becomes annoyed when there's someone that bumps into him and spills coffee all over his suit. Okay, now I remember this one. And so he goes to the restroom and takes some aspirin, and his boss is there and starts lecturing him about a proper lifestyle to maintain his health. So Beechcroft, yeah, that's his name. Okay, says he's fed up with the crowded state of the world, basically, in the office and the city, and says something that's really terrible in a way, that he would like to have all the people of the world eliminated, just gotten out of the way. So, which is, of course, very drastic thing to say, to have this idea of wanting to begin with. So he goes to the cafeteria for lunch, and Henry, this errand runner that is the one that bumped into Beechcroft, apologizes to him for spilling the coffee, and saves him a seat and shows him a book that he was interested in, and it's called The Mind and the Matter, which let's see here, which apparently is about the ability to concentrate. Excuse me. And he says that I lost my spot. So Henry explains that his friend has learned how to make things happen with his mind. And so Henry gives Beechcroft this book. So Beechcroft starts looking through the book in the cafeteria and continues to read it on his way home from work, and finishes the book over dinner in his apartment. And there's a knock at his door. And it's the landlady that has come to collect his rent. And he tests the ideas of this book, not thinking it's really going to work, by trying to make this landlady disappear, basically concentrate to have her vanish from reality. And at some point after that, the knocking on the door stops. So Beechcroft is amazed and looks around to make sure she hasn't just gone hiding and is waiting for him to come out. And she's not there. So he goes to he basically goes back inside his apartment, and next morning he when he's on his way to work again, he goes to the crowded subway station and he uses his this new power he has, which is basically what it is, to make everyone in this crowded subway station vanish. And even the people in the subway train vanish. And he gets to his office and he realizes he hasn't just made everyone in the office or in the subway vanish. He was focused on everyone vanishing. So he is alone completely. And at first he thinks this is amazing because it's what he wanted. And he is Then he's in his office and he starts getting bored. And there's a reflection of himself and he sees in a mirror, in a display. And he starts sort of having conversations with himself. And this other sort of inner version of himself, or this his own monologue, however you want to call it, asks him what he's going to do now because he's so bored. So he decides to summon a thunderstorm, but it gets too loud and too rough, and he can't. He basically has that go away as well, and he's still bored. He's still not happy, and he argues with this idea, or argues with this version of himself about what should be done next. And he thinks that everything would be so much better if the world was full of people like him, a lot more like him. And he does this, and the world is full of people again, but they're all like him. They're all versions almost of him. And he realizes he doesn't like that either, because it's just him, basically alternate versions of him with the same attitudes and ideas and everything about people reflected back at him. And so he at that point, when he's going back to work and everything, everyone has his personality and some of his physical features. And he realizes this isn't working either. So in the end, he puts everything in the world back to the way it was. And Henry shows up again and spills coffee on him again and asks about the book. And Beechcroft pretends to have found the book to be completely unbelievable. And he's still not happy, but he's happier with the world as it was than he was with anything he was able to do with this new power that he found. So it's a wild show, and it does sort of touch on this idea, the careful what you wish for. Exactly. And this idea of powers and how, at first they can seem like an amazing thing, especially if you can only imagine if you actually were able to get them. It would seem like an amazing thing at first, but then the more effect you have on the world around you, the more effects I would imagine there are that you don't even realize based on whatever you use your powers to do. And so, yeah, it's really a good show. It's really done well. Yeah. Sometimes, there's in the chat says again, sometimes things aren't as bad as they seem. Things could be worse. Yeah, definitely. Yep. So it was very a very good illustration of that idea, and yeah, it's just, and this we're gonna actually be doing a show on this idea of powers and that kind of topic soon, actually, in the podcast. Of course, by the time this episode comes out, that may already have been done. So anyway, time is weird, especially when you're recording ahead of schedule. That's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.